it seems to me that the idea of the mark of the beast that we talk about in church is inevitable, right? What are you going to do when it comes to the point where to compete with AI, you need to merge with AI? Elon Musk has already mentioned this, like futurists are talking about this, that there will come a point where you have to take this mark, this microchip, and put it into your brain so that you can merge with AI to compete with AI. Biblical podcast. Beautiful day. I'm out at Erio this afternoon on enjoying this Sunday, and being Sunday and all, let's talk about something controversial. Let's talk about the mark of the beast, and we're going to relate this back to the technology that all the different podcasts I've done about AI and the plans for the transportation industry, for logistics, and how the end goal seems to be to get as much as possible of it to be automated or put into the hands of AI without the assistance of humans as possible. So I mentioned how I talked about some articles that were going to some of this new technology, how the load can communicate with the truck communicates with the load, the communicates to the shipper, communicates to the receiver, communicates to dispatch, to customs, so everything is integrated, right? And we talked about some of the technology. They're talking about putting a white light at the traffic lights so that all the different autonomous vehicles would even communicate with each other, right, to make traffic flow go better. So we're talking about just the trend, right, toward automation, making everything as automated as possible. And then I also brought up one of the articles, but it wasn't an article, it was a study, or if you call it a study, it was kind of overblown, but it was by Bernie Sanders. I'll put a link up to it in the description because I can't remember the name of it right now, but it talked about how millions of jobs were going to be going away due to AI. And in the trucking industry alone, what was it, 100,000? It was claiming 100,000 or some crazy amount of trucking jobs was going to be going away. And in the end, I think it was overblown largely, but the article was right in its intent, that is the direction that big tech oligarchs kind of want to go, right? And just this week, researching for this podcast, I came across some disturbing news where Amazon's laying off 25,000 people because of AI, right? And other big companies laying off hundreds and thousands of, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds and thousands of employees because of AI taking over, right? Just being able to do the job more efficiently. And this leads into the question of, like, someone who's middle-aged, what are you going to do if you lose your job and maybe you're not smart enough to be able to keep up, or you don't have enough time to keep up. You're smart enough, but you don't have the time to retool to get into another industry that's more safe from AI, right? Like, so you're in your mid-40s. Do you really have time to become an electrician? Do you have time to become a carpenter if you don't already have those skills? Do you have time to become a plumber? You're going to apprentice and do this stuff, in your mid to late 40s. That's what we're talking about. And so in this scenario, what you're talking about is possibly hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people laid off and not having the ability to retool because they're just too old. They're hardworking, they've got good work ethics, but there's not enough time for them to keep up with the new reality of AI. And as hardworking as they might be, they might not be smart enough, right? That's a reality. So potentially, you could have really hardworking people who, through no fault of their own, end up homeless, right? And they're in the same boat as the person that just doesn't want to work. So this reality that it's been stated, but like Elon Musk said, there's going to come a time where if you want to have a job, you can have a job, but it'll just be something you do for yourself, right? That's what that's what he said, and he's not the only one. This is the goal that they want, is for AI to take over as much industry as possible because it's more efficient. Computers do not call in sick, they don't unionize, they don't complain about wages, they just do what they're programmed to do. So you get the picture. Now, this leads into two things. The question about, maybe your political beliefs. You don't like the idea of a universal basic income, a UBI, because that sounds like welfare. It sounds like something for lazy people that just don't want to work, right? And it's anti-capitalist, right? That's the problem with it. And the challenge there is that if people who are hardworking, who are capitalists, in their heart they're capitalists, right? If you're in the West, you probably don't realize you're a little bit socialist in a way, because we're very conditioned to rely on social programs. I've talked to many American friends; they have social programs as well. So we're conditioned to this. But it brings up a challenge for your political beliefs, because if you don't believe in a UBI because you think it's anti-capitalistic, and you're not lazy and you believe a man and a woman should work for what they have, well, what are you going to do if your job goes away and you just can't retool? You fall into the category I've just been describing. You're not smart enough, you got an average IQ, and there's not much you can do to find work that's going to pay you to keep your lifestyle up. What are you going to do? There's a question. The second one brings me into the overarching question here. Being it's Sunday, it seems to me that the idea of the mark of the beast that we talk about in church is inevitable, right? You read your Bible, it says, no man was able to buy or sell unless he had this mark. It says that in the book of Revelation. And for years, Christians have talked about this mark of the beast, right? And there's a lot of different theological views on what this means. Was it already fulfilled in the first century? Is it coming? Is it one of those things? But I remember listening to different Christian speakers talk about, the barcodes, right? And how, you'd have the two that are right beside each other, two on the end, two in the middle, two on the other end, and it would be 666. That's supposedly the number for 666, right? There's all these speculations on this 666 number. And, the dangers of taking this mark. And, it's pretty standard, right? It says if you're a believer, you're not to get this mark. Well, what are you going to do if it comes to the point where AI is so integrated into society that you have to put a microchip into your brain because you're not smart enough, remember, to keep up, to retool? You're not smart enough. But what are you going to do when it comes to the point where to compete with AI, you need to merge with AI? Elon Musk has already mentioned this, like futurists are talking about this, that there will come a point where you have to take this mark, this microchip, and put it into your brain so that you can merge with AI to compete with AI. Now, I use AI for literally everything when it comes to my personal interests. Even doing this podcast, I use AI. AI helps me make my description, helps me make my my thumbnail. It helps me find sources really quick. It helps me speed learn. So what am I going to do? Let me back up. It helps me do all these things. But if I could just do it in my brain, I would save even more time, right? I save a lot of time by using AI. The amount of time it would take me to learn about these topics I talk about, and it would be months for me to be able to put a thought together. But with AI, I can get 10 articles in less than 10 seconds, right? But I still have to pick it up and punch it in, right? And in this world where speed and time is everything, right? We want to be the first. If you're a reporter, you want to be the first to report on something. You want to be the first to have the new technology, right? If you're like me, you work a job, you got to speed up any side hustle you have. You got to get going as quick as possible so you have time for your family, right? Everything is about speed, right? That's why Netflix has done so well, because they can get you your movie on demand right there and then. People didn't like going out to the movie shop. They want it done there and then, right? So speed, time, everything. And things would go so much quicker if you just had it in your brain, right? If I didn't have to pick my phone up and tap in this or that source. Now, right now I'm quicker than, I'm doing it pretty quick, but how will I compete against someone who has it in their mind and they can just think about it? So there's those possibilities. How are you going to keep up? How are you going to keep up with other businesses that are using it? How are you going to keep up with AI in general, right? And then there's a consideration about this technology. What could this technology do for someone with Alzheimer's? Like, I wonder, what could a microchip in your brain that helps you think better do for someone who has a degenerative disease like Alzheimer's, dementia, right? So the technology is just, it's advancing rapidly, and I know right now there's no plans to make this like this is how it's going to be, right? But I wonder, at some point, is it not going to go there, right? And what are you going to do if you're a Christian, right? Because if we were using these, if we had our minds merged with technology, if our minds were merged, if we had a microchip in our head that would help us think 1,000,000 times faster, right, and clearer, how are you going to compete with that, right? Imagine how productive society could be. Imagine how much more we would get done if we could operate united, completely united, like a hive mind, right? And I know, I'm not saying I agree with this, I'm just saying this is the direction it looks to me like we're going. Everything is kind of going toward automation, AI, automation, getting humans out as much as possible. And for those of us who are here, we need to compete somehow, right? So it just seems to me that it's inevitable that this is going to come at some point. I highly doubt in my lifetime, but at some point. So anyways, I'd love to hear your comments on this. What do you think about this? I mean, I imagine anybody who doesn't get it would be a free thinker, right? I can give you some really good reasons why you shouldn't get something like that. But you would probably be considered you're a free thinker. You're a revolutionary because you don't want to go along with the crowd, right? That'll be something, right? So, yeah, what are your thoughts on this? And yeah, leave your comments down below what you think. Anyway, if you enjoy the content, do me a favor, like and subscribe. I can't promise you every episode is going to be a banger. Like, this is me ranting today, some thoughts in my mind. If this topic interests you, let me know what you think. Anyway, take care, cheers, keep your rubber side down.